My fiancé admitted he got my stepsister pregnant following a 3-month fling. When I reached out to my mom for comfort, I discovered she'd been aware of it for months, yet still pressured me into jointly hosting the baby shower for my stepsister. I'm 28F. My partner Ethan is 28M. He claims the first encounter happened while he was intoxicated. We've been a couple for 10 years, recently got engaged, and we're planning a wedding in about a year with kids a couple years after that. He says my stepsister, let's call her Lauren, took advantage of him that initial time. But he has zero justification for the several other occasions they were intimate during those 3 months. God, hearing him try to downplay it still makes my stomach turn. I'd already learned she was expecting and had been guilted by mom into co-planning the shower alongside my other stepsister, Sarah, who's 30. Honestly, I'm incredibly relieved I haven't handed over my portion for that pricey running stroller we're supposedly buying Lauren, or covered my part of the shower expenses. Lauren has been telling people the dad is some former boyfriend who wants nothing to do with her or the child. She earns really good money. She'd manage perfectly well as a single parent, and mom, being retired and restless, would jump at the chance to help since she dreams of having a house full of grandkids. Ethan came clean because his own father abandoned him and his mom when he was just a toddler. So now he insists he wants to step up and be present for this baby, while still staying with me because he loves me, and it was just a mistake. I told him to get the hell out of my place. Thank goodness we aren't currently sharing an apartment. We used to live together, but when his mom fell ill, he moved back in with her. She's recovered now, so apparently all that extra free time went towards sleeping with my stepsister. A lot of his belongings are still at my place, since he was gradually moving things over. He was supposed to be fully moving in within the next month. He also contacted my mom and revealed who the actual father is, probably figuring she'd be there to comfort me when I broke down. She already knew. Apparently Lauren, in a moment of grief over losing her own mother, who passed away in a crash when Lauren was only about 2, confided in mom. So mom, Sarah, and my stepdad have all been in on this secret for months. Months. The word still hits like a slap every time I think about it. All that time I was stressing over choosing the ideal table flowers for Lauren's shower, trying so hard to act like a supportive sister. Being the mature one, because there's no way Lauren would have invested even half that effort or money for mine, despite making way more than I do. My own mother couldn't bring herself to warn me that my fiancé had fathered my stepsister's child. Instead, she pushed me to co-host the shower the moment she learned about the pregnancy. I suspect even before she knew Ethan was involved. Mom's whole stance seems to be, we all need to get along and act like a real family now. The past doesn't matter, only this new baby and family unity do. She acknowledges I'm devastated, but insists I should repair things with Ethan after a decade together rather than discard everything over one error. And with Lauren too, since we've been stepsisters since childhood. Basically be the grown-up, set my pain aside for the child's sake and family harmony. I've spent my entire life being the one who lets things go with Lauren. Right from the start, when we met at ages 10 and 9, she snatched my most beloved plush toy and refused to return it. Mom pitied her, let her keep it, and told me to be gracious while Lauren took Mr. Whiskers home as her prize. That poor stuffed cat is probably still boxed up somewhere in Mom and Stepdad's attic, a memento of her very first win against me. I ended the call with Mom abruptly. And that's how I ended up venting here. I refused to become Lauren's child's stepmom. Forgiving Ethan feels impossible. He knows exactly what kind of person Lauren is and how strained our step-sibling dynamic has always been. Forgiving Mom. I'm not even sure that's possible anymore, and she's my mom. She was wonderful, practically my closest confidant. Her only real flaws were endlessly excusing Lauren's behavior and giving her the most terrible handmade scarves as presents. How on earth can she rationalize keeping this from me? I didn't ruin a 10-year relationship or destroy any supposed sisterly connection. They did. Maybe I should sit her down and ask if someone's been spiking her meals with something, or if early memory issues are creeping in. I have no clue anymore. Claire sent me this obnoxious early morning text demanding when I'd send my half of the $800 stroller, and my portion of the shower bill, which is going to cost about as much as a beat-up used car. Edit, is it awful that I told her to go screw herself? Because that's exactly what I replied. We charged everything to her cards. She's still in school with a low-paying retail gig, and I do feel guilty sticking her with over $3,000 in debt. But I keep reminding myself she can return items, cancel orders, resell what's non-returnable, and mom and stepdad will likely bail her out anyway. Another edit, I group texted our shared friends circle that Ethan cheated and is Lauren's baby daddy. After a decade together, pretty much all our friends overlap. The few people I'm close to who aren't also close to him are basically casual acquaintances. I can't open up to them about something this explosive. Then I powered my phone off. Please don't tell me any of them already knew or side with him. What if the whole group was in on it? Tomorrow mom's out volunteering for her usual weekly shift, so I'm heading to their house. I still have a key. If stepdad's home, he'll probably just wave me in and go back to his shows. Solid guy. My stepsisters got someone who stepped in as a mother figure without trying to erase their late mom, and she went overboard compensating. I got a stepdad who mostly nods politely and occasionally cuts me slack on rent when we play board games as a family. I've still got boxes stored in their attic for when I eventually buy my own place, plus I want to hunt for Mr. Whiskers. And yes, I'm retrieving my grandmother's jewelry from mom's collection. It sounds terrible, I realize, but I swear I'm only taking what grandma specifically willed to me. I let mom borrow it indefinitely because I felt guilty she was skipped over. She's an only child. And I assumed I'd inherit it back when mom passed decades from now. Which, yeah, looking back is incredibly naive, especially knowing Lauren would complain about fairness and no grandma jewelry of her own. Grandma clearly had her reasons for leaving it directly to me. I wish she were still here. She'd have ripped into mom over this. Fingers crossed nothing's missing or being worn. I don't know my full plan yet, but I want those pieces safe. I never imagined mom would betray me this way, so who knows if she'd pass anything along to Sarah or Lauren. It's legally and rightfully mine. Ending the indefinite loan isn't theft, it's reclaiming what's always been mine. It carries huge sentimental value, so it's definitely coming with me tomorrow. We both understand it's mine. Thank you all for the support and suggestions so far. Heading to sleep now and facing whatever tomorrow holds. Hopefully my jewelry, Mr. Whiskers, and a flood of friend messages declaring Ethan dead to them, swearing they'll disown me if I ever consider taking him back, and confirming nobody had a clue. Edit again, I'm kind of awful. I messaged Lauren, wished her baby would arrive with Down syndrome, extra special paired with the heavy fetal alcohol exposure odds since she drinks far more than her own mother ever did. Followed it with calling her every awful name I could think of, ending with just whore. Her mom died in a drunk driving accident she caused. And Lauren has openly said multiple times that people with conditions like Down syndrome are useless burdens who should be eliminated. I feel some regret. Those are cruel words to throw at anyone, and I usually hold myself to a higher standard. Also, rereading it, I'm not even sure it lands as much of an insult. Still, maybe it'll hurt her. I've never carried a child. Perhaps it'll make her break down, and thanks to her, I won't be carrying one anytime soon either. Phone's off again. I shoved it on top of the highest cabinets where I can't grab it without climbing. Bedtime for real. What the hell do I do now? Update, I've kept things distant with Lauren ever since I turned 18 and left for university. There's no real sisterly closeness, more like polite tolerance at holiday gatherings. She views me as stuck up because I refuse to accept nonsense from anyone and will call it out. I see her as entitled. Only mom ever got me to swallow my pride and let myself be mistreated. I'm not timid or a pushover by nature. So yeah, plenty of you urged me to go no contact with everyone, and honestly, if I were reading this post, I'd tell the op the same. I cut off my childhood best friend at 22 after she ignored my no-smoking rule in my apartment for a whole month, then acted entitled when I confronted her. I simply didn't like who she'd become anymore. So the very next day after posting, I went to mom's place. Empty house, I let myself in with my key. Retrieved every piece of my jewelry and all the miscellaneous boxes I'd stored in the attic. Searched everywhere for Mr. Whiskers. Checked Lauren's and Sarah's stuff too, just in case. Pretty certain the family dog back then shredded him. Doubt Lauren kept the thing this long anyway. I might have taken scissors to every photo of Lauren I came across in the attic. Yeah, including possibly one with her late mom. Oops, Claire has copies and now she has my mom too, right? I'm not proud of the impulse, but I was still bleeding from the wound that day. Snatched the kitchen shears on my way upstairs and lost it. A month on, I do feel shitty about the destruction. But back then, pure rage, got home, finally looked at my phone. Dozens of messages from Mom, Sarah, and Lauren, deleted them unread. Even an hour later, I couldn't recall specifics, but I can imagine the gist. Friend replies were mostly disappointing. Almost everyone knows both Ethan and me. Most said things like, "We care about you both." Only a couple called him out. Turns out one guy knew. Ethan confided in his best friend about a week before confessing to me, and the friend actually pushed him to come clean. A bunch of you were harsh about Mom. Fair enough, but she's genuinely not malicious, just overly compassionate. When she married stepdad, she felt terrible for my stepsisters and overcorrected massively. She truly was my best friend. I'd even considered asking her to stand as matron of honor if we ever did a real wedding instead of eloping in Vegas, which we were leaning toward. Met Mom for lunch at a quiet restaurant. She was upset I'd taken the jewelry without notice, claimed she nearly had a panic attack coming home to find things missing. I pointed out she should have told me the second she learned Ethan was the father. She said she didn't want to insert herself or take sides. That warning me would have meant getting involved when it should have come from Ethan or Lauren. Plus, she was reeling from Lauren's confession and honestly, not thinking of me first. I told her that's been the pattern whenever Lauren's involved since day one. She pushed me again to reconsider Ethan, not to discard 10 years over one slip. I said he was the one who threw those years away. She admitted she hadn't known Ethan's involvement when she roped me into co-hosting, and promised she and stepdad would handle my share of the gifts and party costs. I looked her in the eye and said, "I'm your biological daughter. If you want to keep being my mother, you need to choose me this time." She replied she couldn't. She'd become Lauren's primary mother figure, considered her a full daughter, and still refused to pick sides. Said her answer would be identical even if she'd birthed all three of us. I told her I was truly sorry to hear that, wished her the best, said I'd call occasionally but wouldn't be visiting often, wouldn't attend family events. And any future children of mine would have zero contact with the stepfamily. She said she regretted my choice, hoped I'd eventually forgive and not fracture everything. I answered that I was disappointed but not shocked, and reminded her Lauren was the one who slept with my fiancé and shattered the family. Paid my half of the check, said goodbye, and walked out. I'll probably phone her in a couple months. For now, she and the stepfamily have unique ringtones, so I know to ignore them. If she brings up Lauren, Ethan, or the baby, conversation ends until she respects that boundary. She gently scolded me for the vicious texts to Lauren. I just shrugged, told her admonishing me meant she was getting involved after all. Yes, I regret sending them. I was furious and had polished off a full bottle of wine. Still, she earned every word. Ethan showed up a few days later with takeout pizza, ice cream, and roses. I'd boxed his belongings by the door and was ready to hand them over and shut him out, but he talked me into letting him in to speak. Then he dropped that while I gave him my virginity, he'd already lost his to Lauren just weeks earlier. It felt like a fist to the gut. I told him if I'd known back then, I'd have ended things immediately and spent the next 9+ years free. Not held back from moving cities, traveling abroad, adopting a cat. He's horribly allergic. Or even wearing nail polish because he hated the smell. He apologized, insisted he loved me and wanted to fix us. I made it clear I would never be Lauren's child's stepmother. I want a completely Lauren-free existence. Taking him back would require zero contact with the woman he cheated with, which is impossible if he's parenting the child. He claimed Lauren later suggested there might be a chance he wasn't the father, classic Lauren move. I said there was still every chance he was, and I wouldn't gamble on it. Besides, it didn't erase the original betrayal early in our relationship or the more recent one. Twice was more than enough. He asked if we could at least stay friends, pretty sure hoping to slowly win me over. I said I'd consider it. Zero intention of that. Called my dad, he's across the country. We have a great bond even though I only saw him summers growing up. I adore my stepmom there, but I always kept her at arm's length to protect mom's feelings. Ironic now, isn't it? Dad offered to cover the rest of my lease break fee and let me stay rent-free in one of his rental properties if I relocate to his area. I'm taking him up on it. I've got substantial savings to bridge me until I land new work. I never wanted to stay in this city forever. Putting 2,000 miles between me and mom and everyone else feels like exactly what I need. I'll also repair things with my stepmom. First thing when I arrive, a sincere apology for pushing her away, quit my job. These past few weeks I've been decompressing, packing, organizing the move, starting therapy, browsing adoptable cats in Dad's city, and reconnecting with a few old summer friends from visits there. Hoping at least one turns into a real friendship. Bought way too many nail polishes, got a fresh manicure, and splurged on those boots I've eyed forever but never allowed myself because, well, marriage was coming. Things will be all right, I think. Huge thanks to everyone who offered kind words, solid advice, and support. Next story. Boyfriend abandoned me at a bar and ghosted my calls for over an hour. When the truth finally came out, it turned out he and my closest friends had intentionally left me behind so they could use heavy drugs without me around. Last night my boyfriend, 26M, and I, 23F, were supposed to have a proper date, but it morphed into a casual group hangout with mutual friends. I was bummed. We'd barely had any one-on-one time lately and hadn't done a real date in over 2 weeks. He promised part of the evening would still feel like our date and that it'd be enjoyable, so I agreed. Off to the bar we went. Everything felt good for a while, but about an hour in I needed the restroom. The place was packed, long line for the women's bathroom. I waited and was back out in roughly 10 minutes. When I returned, my boyfriend and the whole group were gone. Nowhere in sight. Checked my phone, no messages from anyone, asked the bartender if he'd seen them leave. He said they told him to pass along that they'd headed to a club, but he couldn't recall which one. I figured it was the one we'd originally discussed. Still, it stung. I'd only been gone 10 minutes, they easily could have waited. Worse, my boyfriend had driven us there, so now I was stuck. Walk home alone at night or grab an Uber. I chose Uber. While waiting, I texted him asking why they didn't wait and whether they were at the club. No reply, texted my best friend, nothing. Called both, no answer. Uber took forever. By then I was exhausted, and neither had responded. Went straight home, showered, made food, got ready for bed. An hour had passed since I'd last seen them and still silence from my boyfriend. Started worrying something bad happened. Called again, no pickup. Called best friend, voicemail. Tried 2 other people in the group, same. Scrolled Facebook and saw one of them had just posted pics of the whole crew at a completely different club than the one we'd planned. I was devastated and furious. Sent my boyfriend a long text explaining how cruel it was to ditch me without even a heads up, and that next time he shouldn't bring me somewhere just to abandon me without checking if I was safe. It really sank in how messed up the whole thing was. They didn't just leave, they switched venues entirely. If I'd gone to the original club, I'd have searched for them all night. What hurt most? I'd been missing over an hour, and he wasn't worried at all. Wouldn't a normal person panic about leaving their partner behind at a busy bar with no contact? If roles were reversed, I'd have been blowing up his phone. Went to sleep, woke up to a flood of texts from him. Apologies, saying the bartender was supposed to tell me the new spot. Phones were impossible to hear inside the club. I shot back that it was ridiculous to rely on a busy bartender instead of texting me himself. More apologies, excuses. They just annoyed me further. Now I'm wondering if I'm blowing this out of proportion. Should I try to fix things and forgive him or just end it? Would really value some outside perspective. Update, I've been messaging one of the girls who was there. She finally admitted they deliberately left me behind. While I was in the bathroom, the group decided they wanted to do harder drugs and assumed I'd ruin the vibe or feel uneasy. Instead of being upfront, they chose to vanish and ignore me. Instead of waiting to confront him in person tonight, I called him. He admitted it. Said they were protecting me because they knew my family history with drugs, 3 relatives lost to overdoses. I told him that's no excuse. They could have been honest instead of stranding me. Asked why he ignored my calls and texts. He said he just wanted to have fun without the guilt weighing him down. More apologies, but I was finished. Broke up with him right there. And yes, I'm cutting contact with those so-called friends too. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded if they used. I'd only have cared about their safety. I'd even have preferred being there to watch out for everyone and make sure no one went too far. But whatever. Looking back, walking away from both situations felt like finally breathing again. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that set you free.